Well, things are a little bit more peaceful in Port Henry and Moriah than they were the last time our little corner showed up here. We showed up here for the opening of a wonderful new mining museum in an area that's going to combine the history of the railroad and the mining industries here in this area. It's neat to come back because we had to find out what's going on behind the scenes. We decided to come back to this wonderful little museum when the celebrities were gone and just us folks were here to chat with some of these people who lived it. Not the people who wrote about it, but the people who lived it. And when we were here last time, standing back here watching all the festivities, Marcy Neville was here with me watching, sipping a little punch and enjoying that day. That was a fun day, Marcy.
It was a beautiful day. We had a great turnout. I was very pleased.
I loved it. Now, what do you do here? You work in that fantastic building next door. I love the building, which I know is the Moriah Town Hall, right?
Yep, it used to be the headquarters for the Witherbee, Sherman and Company mining office, and this was their operations headquarters where they overlooked all of the shipping and processing of ore that went on here in Port Henry. So it's a great office. It's still very authentic inside, has not been done over, and still has the old tin ceilings and everything. It's a great office.
When we drove up the first time, I said, oh my gosh, this building is fantastic. Yeah. And then when I looked next door to see what the people had done with this carriage house, I said, oh my gosh. I say that a lot. What is your job actually over there?
I'm the coordinator for the Economic Development Zone, and I kind of inherited this project. We got a grant to renovate this building about 5 years ago. I've been in the job 4 years, and I'm basically the paper pusher and the reporter, and I'm the one who keeps the money flowing and hires the contractors and moves things along.
Don't downplay that job. But it's got to be satisfying to you. We didn't get a chance to interview you when we were here the last time, but it must make you feel good to see the fruits of your labor.
It's been a lot of fun. It's really been great. You know, in a project this size, in a town this size, you really do get to see progress over a period of 4 years, and I've gotten to know a lot of really great people, and it's been a lot of fun putting this exhibit together.
Have you always been interested in history?
I've always been kind of a history buff, and I grew up in the Adirondacks, so I've been interested in, you know, local history, and I know from being an Adirondack resident that it's always hard to really get at the stories that are the really unique ones. People in the Adirondacks have a reputation for being a little bit standoffish. I don't think they're standoffish really, but I think it takes a while before these kinds of stories come out, and that's been part of the fun of this project for me, is just getting to know the people and getting them to feel comfortable enough to tell their story.
People are charming. You're going to hear some of those stories later on in this program, and I can't wait to do it. Some of the most satisfying programs for us in all the time we've done this program called Our Little Corner is to talk to the people who've lived it from way back when. We are literally standing right in the middle of history right here. And I have to tell the people who may not have seen our previous program, Marcy, that this building wasn't always in this kind of shape over the last few years. So you've seen a few modifications in the last 5 years.
To say the least. This building, this floor wasn't here. This building had a dirt floor. The rear wall was gone. The roofs were caving in. It was being used by the town for storage facility, but it was really in pretty bad shape. And there were times over the 4 years that we were keeping the money coming in to renovate this building that I wondered whether we might lose it in the middle there, but it's really been very satisfying to see it come together.
And even now, it's what we call a work in progress. It's by no means totally the way it's going to be.
There's plenty more to do here, but I think we've made the first giant step here, and certainly the community involvement has always been a big part of this, and I'm sure that the rest will go, you know, pretty smoothly.
I can envision this little heritage park here being a kind of a focus for tourism in the future. People, if the publicity is right, out in the hinterlands and other states, and people previously from this area bring their families back, this would be a nice place to be, you know?
It's
a little music going in the gazebo.
Yeah, it's kind of a magnet for people going by on Route 22, and that was the idea behind getting the locomotive and the ore car and the caboose down there too. Is that's kind of our sign. It's very visible as you drive by on Route 22, and it pulls a lot of people in here. The gazebo, we did have a concert series this summer, the first time in many years, and it was sort of traditional music based on railroad mining and work songs, and it was very successful. It was a big hit.
So it all came together when the place opened up. We had a lot of big dignitaries here, and the speeches were wonderful, and certain people were honored. And our program that day, aside from covering the actual speeches right from the beginning to the end, kind of focused on the railroad end of it. And we talked to the guys who were down there, pretty proud guys like John and the rest, to see the actual caboose that he worked in all that time being settled there, and that'll be another work in progress. People can come up and visit now and then come back years hence and see that those cars have been restored. That was no small project getting those here either, especially the project getting that engine here.
No, it wasn't. That took probably 3 years of negotiations with D&H and trying to come up with the right locomotive, and then actually getting it here and getting it off the tracks and getting it unloaded onto the display tracks, and that was an all-day job just in itself.
Now, you've gathered quite a few interesting things here connected with the mining industry in Moriah Port Henry region, and a wonderful photographic display. Were you involved in helping to get some of these pictures together? Or?
The local historical society is a great resource here, and they actually had most of these photographs. A few were from other people in town also, and then we had a professional photographer come and take photos of the people in the exhibit. So I had a hand in choosing those photos, but really most of them are here.
You get quite an interesting little section of history just by reading underneath the photographs, looking at them, because many of the people in the photographs are still very much alive, and several of them will be the focus of our broadcast today. So that's kind of neat. What are you planning in the future in here?
This exhibit is meant to be a temporary exhibit. I expect it'll probably be here for 2 to 3 years, and we're already in the process of applying for funds for the other phases of this exhibit. I imagine we'll keep this exhibit here and add to it. We also have plans for having an orientation video and for doing some kind of a scale model or diorama to show people what actually went on at this site in terms of transport and processing, and perhaps even show them what went on up in Mineville. I think the story to be told up there that most people don't realize is just how much is underneath the ground. And you have no sense of that anymore since all of the infrastructure has been torn down. So that's another idea for a model.
And I'm sure that people in the Tri-County region who may be viewing this program on their favorite public access channels might have some old photographs, some old documents, some old signs like you have up on the wall that are so neat, and I'm sure the organization would welcome hearing from them.
We'd love to hear from them, and you know, if anybody would like to bring any of the stuff down to us, we would be happy to take it on loan, but we're also just happy to see it and hear, you know, the story behind it. I realize that a lot of this stuff is stuff people are not going to want to give up. But just having even a picture of it for us can help us put some of the pieces together that we're missing in this story.
You know, a lot of people, especially our wonderful seniors, who have some memorabilia from that time period, might like nothing better than to put those objects on loan to such a museum as this and share them with thousands and thousands of visitors in the future. What better thing to do than to keep it in a closet or down in the basement somewhere?
Yeah, it's not really doing much good in a closet. We'd love to see it. We're still in the process of planning the next exhibits, and we're not sure of all the artifacts that are going to go in there. But if there are things that would be useful in that exhibit, we would love to perhaps take them on loan.
Last time we were here, we interviewed Joan, who couldn't be with us today because she had a meeting. Joan, it's Davy, right?
Davy, yep.
Whose maiden name was Crawford, and I kidded her about Joan Crawford being here along with the other celebrities. But she'll be here at another time when we come back, I'm certain. She's worked very hard to get the help with this as the town historian, but she herself was directly involved with this whole mining business.
She was. She worked in the warehouse for Republic Steel and worked in Moriah Central School after that, and has always been very, very involved in the town's history and compiling the town's history and helping to educate people about it.
But if it hadn't been for the gentlemen that are hiding behind the curtains right now that we're going to interview, we wouldn't even have a story here today, and that's going to be the fun of it, isn't it, Mike?
That's right. This is really their story.
Marcy, thanks so much for being with us today. It's a warm day. We kind of like this warm weather at this time of year. I thought we were going to get fall all of a sudden when I saw the wind blowing the leaves off the trees the other day, but we got a reprieve. It sure is better than that hurricane down south, right?
We're pretty lucky.
Marcy, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
I don't know about you, but it makes me feel good to meet interesting people. And I have a feeling that I'm going to feel really good before this day is through. We're going to get what is known as an oral and visual history of some of the things that went on in this area that make this entire area unique of all the places on the face of the earth. No one had things happening around here quite like it happened here. On our last program called Our Little Corner, you got an idea how the railroads were connected. But now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. I met these three gentlemen here today. I've written their names down because I'm so terrible at remembering names. Martin, is it Bizon?
Bizon, correct.
You were here last time.
Yes, that's true.
Were you here too last time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're Jack Brennan.
That's right.
You told me you were John Brennan's son?
That is correct.
See, I don't know how I remember that. And you, Mike, you told me it was very important that I get the rest of your name. I want you to tell people what your name is.
My name is DeVilio Michael Salati.
Don't you love it?
Yes, I do.
Doesn't it sound like something you'd order as an hors d'oeuvre at lunch or something?
Sounds like a guy with money, don't it?
Well, maybe we can find that out before we're through. Maybe we could have a late lunch. Let me ask you where you came from. This doesn't sound like a Port Henry accent that you got.
I was born in Brooklyn.
No.
19.
Would you ever get 19 what?
22. Right, and I come up into Mineville when I was 19 years old in 1941. I worked for, 4 or 5 years, quit, and come back in 1946 and stayed till 1979 that time.
You decided you might like it that time around.
Well, I had to like it. I got married. I was 28 years old.
Do we want to know the rest of that story, Mike? Or what?
Well, you're going to hear it anyway. I got married when I was 28 years old and had 10 children after that, and stayed in the mines, like I said, till 1979. I worked for Jack Brennan's father during that course of the time, and for a lot of other people, but I remember Jack and his father well.
What? Did you have the same job all that time in the mines, or did you?
No,
What'd you do?
I run air shovel, and I did a little drilling, scraping, and blasting. Then I got hurt, and they put me out in the open pit for a while. Then after that, I went on number 9 hoist, run hoist for 10 years. Then I worked for Jack when we were shutting down, and I run the auxiliary hoist and the Don B hoist, and when we were taking equipment out of the mines then. But, well, I don't know.
But generally, mining was your whole life then.
Right. All my life I was.
And making children.
Yeah.
Well, he mentioned 10 kids there, you know. And
I have nine today. I lost one boy, but I have 9 children. And I got a wonderful wife.
Do the kids, a lot of them still live around here?
They sure do. They're there every Sunday.
Maybe they'd stop in for supper every night.
Well, when they were small, I told them, I said, when you grow up now, when you come in the house, open the door with your elbows. And he said, what do you mean, Dad? I said, have groceries in your hand, you know? Just move your hand out.
Bring food.
Yeah, well, what do you think? Bring food. Bring the wine. Bring something.
So most of them live right around here?
The furthest one away is one in works in Vermont. So the other 8 are right here.
Oh, that's great. That's the name of the game.
Grandchildren.
Well, that's something to be proud of.
I sure am.
How about great-grandchildren?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Tell them to get busy.
That's right.
All right, but not until we finish this program here anyway. Martin, you were here the last time. I see a few pictures on the walls here that you're in.
Yeah, yeah. Unlike Mike, I was born here, like I told you. And outside, well, whenever Republic Steel shut down for strike, lack of order stuff, I would get other jobs. 46, I worked half a year up in Alaska.
Did you really? Doing what?
Surveying. We had to remap 400 square miles area around Fairbanks, drawing 50-foot contours, change the elevation of all the hills. I worked for the U.S. Geological Survey then. I got a leave of absence because I came back. That time they went back to number 6 there in 45. I don't know why. Or that was 46, then they went back to number 7. Then, of course, 42, the war come around. I went in the Air Force, had some heavy bombing flying over in Germany. Come back in 45, your time continued. 48, got married to a local girl from Witherbee, best-looking girl up there, I think. And lost her when she was 51 due to cancer. But in 1948, we were married. 50, I got a notice. I had to go back into service again, the Korean War. So
that'll teach you. You
yeah,
had the experience.
Spent a while. 042 is where very vital. They wanted radar men, and there was critical MOS, so I had to go in, which was all right. Then I come back and I stayed with the company until Sunday one they shut down. And doing various jobs. I started on the trestle car unloader when I come out of the service, and it didn't take me only a month or so to say, Mister, this isn't for me. So he's going to have to get a better job because I can't see future in this. So I got into repairs, which is very interesting. It was a challenge, something new every day. So I stayed in maintenance, millwrighting, from 47 on through till I retired. And finally worked myself up. They asked me to be millwright foreman. Knowing the job, like Jack would understand, working with it, there wasn't a job there that I would ask anybody to do it. I haven't done, so I knew I could handle it all right, so I took the job. And, of course, we tried different things. We practiced a lot of preventive maintenance. Knew how much equipment, how much the lifespan of it is, and kind of when it was about time for that equipment to break down or to compare it to break down, we'd watch it real close. Before it did break down, we'd change it. So like 1 year, we had just one call out, which is, it's quite a record. Jack could tell you that.
Come on.
Just one call out during a 12-month period where something broke down. So that was...
That's got to be an unheard of record.
Yeah, it was. I was very proud of that. And I thought the boys did good. I had a good crew. And like I told them, I don't mind you sitting back 15 minutes after you do job 10, but when it's 2 hours, I say, I'm coming. So they were good. And
big bosses must have liked that when there were only one breakdown in a year.
Yeah. So in between also, we shut down several times, strike. I worked for Northern Construction Sales. We built a screening plant up at the head of the tailing pile. I went to the union first, make sure I wasn't violating any thing. So I said, no, go ahead. So we were screening. We had to make 300 ton of stone a day to break even. They're blacktopping the roof from here to tie then. So we did. We met the quota. As a matter of fact, I got to thinking the time that tailing pile slid, we were up on top, and just the whole thing went. Took railroad cars,
Come on.
2 or 3 rails, sets of rails. You remember that, Jack? Yeah. Just rolled them right up. We were up on top of the pile when it happened. So I got thinking. I said, why did that go? I know water had something to do. A lot of springs there, but back then, all the stone that wasn't hauled away from the mill just went out tailing pile. Then the truck come in, they had a bender, but once they draw a load out of the bend, it would fill up, and then it'd go up the tailing pile again. I just wondering if a pocket of stone didn't accumulate along with the water that pushed it out. So I went way down below where the tracks went and everything. And boy, I found a bonanza there. Boy, it was pure stone. We were making 500-600 ton a day like nothing.
Come on.
So I think that was one of the causes of that going down that time, Jack. All that
with the water.
1A and one stone in the water.
Yeah.
But the amount of that pile that went, it's hard to imagine unless you were there. I know I was there. I was looking. There's a crack about that wide on the tailing pile, and I'm looking at it, and I could see the tailings falling into it. So Brother Frankie and the rest of them on the end, I said, "Come on over here, guys, a minute." And pretty soon you could see it open. I said, "Run!" And we went. And just the whole thing went out.
Nobody got hurt?
No. Another minute, and they would have gone with it.
Well, it dawns on me. We're going to These guys are going to talk the real stories as they occur to them and the memories today. And a lot of our viewers won't know what this shop talk is all about, so they have no idea what a tailing pile is. Explain that for us, Mark.
It's the pile of tailings you see up in the mountain up there. It's the byproduct after the ore was taken out of the ore to the milling process. Matter of fact, in the milling process, I've come to the conclusion that at least 60 to 70% of our expenses was tailing disposal. Your thickener, your classifiers, your launder chutes, and so the byproduct went up on tailing pile to a series of conveyors. The reason you got all them junction houses because a motor is going to pull just so much. You have to build a junction house, get a chute, start another conveyor. So that's when you got those step ups going up to tailing pile.
There is 12 million ton in that pile, approximately 12 million.
Oh, now you're getting beyond what I can even understand, Jack. 12 million tons?
Yes. It is now owned by Rhone Poulenc for the rare earths that are in it.
Oh, really? I wouldn't even think about that until you mentioned it.
Some of them are very valuable. We never did anything with them here. It just went up as tailings.
Yeah, Jack was showing me this. How do you pronounce that, Jack?
Lutetium
Lutetium. What are the things?
is
500 price per kilogram.
that's 2.5 pounds.
Gee, but that's what it'll do with
Oh, let's go back to the beginning a little bit here and find out. We found out where these other guys came from and what their lives were about. Tell us about yours, Jack.
I was born in Mineville, went to school in Boston, got a job in the steel mills, and after 4 or 5 years, came back to Mineville and started there in the electrical department and then worked my way up.
And your dad before you?
Was a mine captain. He worked in a mine all his life.
So most of your job with mining here involved what? Doing what? What was your job?
Maintenance. My title ended up being superintendent of maintenance. Machinists, electricians, one hoistman in the last few years, and
Well, you guys must have been very disappointed to see this wonderful industry go down the tubes here.
there's no question about that. Everyone is disappointed. Although I was ready to retire, but there were so many that left town. I have 6 boys. They all left town to get a job. Kentucky, New Hampshire, Buffalo, Syracuse, all over the country.
Get to see him once in a while?
Oh, regular.
6 boys, no girls?
No birds. Got 6 nice girls now, though. Nice daughter-in-laws.
That's wonderful. What a tremendous family. So what, Michael, what have you been doing since all that ended back in the 70s?
Well, I work for the Department of Transportation. And
You can talk all day.
yeah, Department of Transportation. Then now I work as a green thumb. You really got to be over 100 to get that job. I'm very poor, but I thank God that at this age that I could work and enjoy life. But I did various jobs when the mines went down. I helped build missile bases up here in the North Country. They
That's just
drilled
about
them.
what I was getting here in the early 60s, right?
Well, when the mines were shut down, I think they shut down in 61? 71. Oh, I mean the first time.
61.
It's 71.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I remember
61,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Then I went on to the missile bases and drilled and helped them build that. And then when the mines opened up again, I went back into the mines, and I and Jack and 4 other guys were the last men on the job when they shut the mines down. Jack was my boss, and one day he told me, I told him I was cold. He said, "You're not working fast enough." I never forgot that.
You're not working. Is that the way you were?
You had to tell the truth.
He hid the whip right behind him, though, right? Huh? But that had to be a sad day, though.
Oh, yes, it was very sad. I'm telling you, it was a real letdown for the whole town to have the mines go down. They were mining here for what, better than 100 years, Jack?
Well, way more than that. To hear the experts talking about it, mining really started in its infancy here almost 200 years ago.
It started in 1846. They knew ore was here in 1824. 21 Pit opened in 1846, and since that time, Old Bed Mine has gone right down and down and down.
So they had different numbers. How you explain that to me? How they named them like that?
21 was because it was on lot 21. Just surveying. 23 Pit was just a little bit above, and that was 23 Pit. Then the rest of them mostly were after men's names, the owner of the lot, so on.
Why was the ore so good around here?
Because it turned out at 68% iron, which is terrific. While I was in Youngstown, I didn't know much about the ore, but I read in the Vindicator, the Youngstown Vindicator, that due to the Mineville ore, the open hearth furnaces had broken production records out there after using the Mineville ore. They had, the idea of it was the lump ore was Fe3O4. They would put the lumps into the furnace, and the O4 would go to the bottom, and it would quicken the burning and the heat, and you'd get steel that much quicker.
Oh, boy, I knew I'd get an education if I came here today.
Time is about $1,000 a minute to run a furnace.
Oh, maybe more.
Yeah, that's why it was so much more important to run with Mineville ore. You go run the furnace quicker and get the cast out, as compared to other ores. That's what Jack's saying.
Yeah, Jack, how would that compare with, say, Lion Mountain ore?
Lion Mountain was good ore, but no ore could compare with Old Bed. The ratio, they'd end up at maybe 60 or 60% iron. Old Bed would come in at 68, 69%. 71 is, and the figure is pure.
Wow. You can't get much better than that.
When Republic Steel came to Mineville, and Mike worked around there, I guess, they immediately saw the pillars that had been left from the old-timers working in 21 Pit, and they immediately started to recover the pillars. They were approximately 150 feet high, up to 150 feet.
What's a pillar? Explain what that means.
Just what you would think of as a pillar, a column. Out in this, in the pit, it is a huge bunch of iron which was left there to hold the roof up. They would put the ladder up 150 feet, and then they would cut the top 8 foot of that pillar off and drill down holes through the pillar. One pillar, number 12, the iron magazines all had the write-up on it. They had 13 holes straight down to the rock, and they used 936 pounds of ammonium nitrate, blasted it, and they got 16,500 ton out of that pillar of pure ore.
Wow.
This started around 1940 or a year after, maybe. By 1950, they had taken 500,000 ton of ore out of 21 Pit, and they doubled it in the years after.
Wow. So whoever spotted that the first time really found what they call the mother lode. Huh?
They studied it for 2 years, drew maps and everything else. They put vibration instruments on the roof from the Bureau of Mines to make sure that it was still safe. I was in on one blast. I'm not a powder man. There's the powder man over there. Farmer Engineering sold us the radios for the cages to go underground. And they come in one day and they had a blasting machine. And they said to me, could we try this out? And I said, well, I know we've got a shot going this afternoon, but I don't have anything to do it, but I will talk to John Murphy. So I talked to John, and he said, sure, but you shoot it. And they set the machine up, and I was right on the corner where you go up to the community building in Mineville, the rock there, and the shot was down under us. John hollered once. I was a little bit nervous, but the second time he hollered, I knew he meant it, and I pushed the plunger down. I was standing straight up, and that doubled my knees. So there must have been a force coming up through there, and yet the instruments they had on the roof showed no vibration at all, but it doubled my knee. I never forget that.
What an experience that was. Wow. Mike, you
That
didn't...
was over in Clonan, right? When they shot the pillar down there. Right.
One open
Yeah,
pit, yeah.
I was there to the open pit when they shot that.
Tell me what your memory is about that. I didn't know you were involved in the blasting.
Well,
That sounds like a little dangerous.
well, I worked at, I and my partner, Cliff Manette, his name was at the time, and he's gone now. And we worked in the sink. That's the lowest part of the mine you could go to. There's no more. That's the bottom. There wasn't too many people like to work down there. And 3 guys come in. They drill and blast. When we come in, 11 to 7, and we clean it out. That was my job in that time, you know. And it was very gassy down there. So I got to tell you this story about this.
I knew there'd be a story. That's why I brought the microphone.
This guy always says to me, boy, you guys make nice money down there, he says. I said, why, would you like to work down there? He said, yes, I'd like to work. And so this night come along, and I said, hey, you want to work down the sink? Because my partner is off. He said, yes, I want some of that big money. I said, okay. So I asked the boss. At that time, there was no union. I said, can he come down and work with me? He said, sure, let him go. And he had a cigar in his mouth, and I said, you better throw that away. He didn't know what was down there. So he come down. We started at 11 o'clock. 3 o'clock in the morning, they carried him up in a stretcher. The gas finished him right up. He passed right out. The next night, I said to him, hey, my partner's still off, you know. I said, if you want to come down. No, he said, I don't care what kind of money you're making down there. He said, I can't stand that. It was gassy in them sinks. Whoa.
You think you got immune to it? How come you could stand it and somebody else couldn't?
Well, I don't know. All I thought is when I went to work down there, I just brought soup, something I could drink. I couldn't keep solid food in me. You ask anybody about the sink, and there's not too many people wanting to work down there. It was just too gassy, that's all, you know. But he got his fill out of it.
They would have ventilating fans in the drifts, driving a drift, or in the sink or raise, but it was gassy from the blasting, no question about it,
What kind of gas would that be, Jack?
from the dynamite.
Probably more than one person did get a little sick from time to time.
Many. Yeah, many.
So they didn't want to go and work in the sink, huh?
If you handle dynamite and if you were sweating, just rub your hand like this across your forehead, and the inside of your head would just start going like that. If you never touch your face, you wouldn't have headaches so bad, you know. And
I never would have known that unless I met you today.
well, that's anybody, Jack, anybody would tell you that. If you were sweating in the mines and you were loading dynamite into the drill holes, and if you were sweating, you just rub your hand like that, and 5 minutes your head would start pounding. I did dynamite. There must have been, what's that stuff they give them guys with hot... The nitro was coming through, and you rub your head, and boy, you had a dandy, I'm telling you.
That's Amazing. Now you're talking about this. Is this, well, this is what we did for a living, and we drilled a hole and we put the dynamite in it. Wasn't that dangerous?
Very dangerous. You better know what you were doing. I mean, you didn't want to go, you had to use the proper material to load the holes. They had loading sticks, and sometimes some people wouldn't want to wait so long to go get a loading stick, and they use something else to tamp the powder, and that was very dangerous. Then after the Republic Steel come in, the company, they would not let you load holes without the proper equipment, the proper stuff to do everything safe, you know what I mean? And then we had less accidents, and you know, it was, well, it was, got better working conditions and everything. But
things were a little bit primitive, I'm sure, back in the 1930s and 40s compared to the way it would be done now.
I don't think you realize what the mine was. Let me tell you just a little bit about it.
I wish you would.
The change house was on the main street in Witherbee. The men would change their clothes, punch in, get their lamp. They would walk down the hill approximately 100 yards, wait in a portal house for the cage. 48 men would get in the cage, and it would travel to 1185. Donby Slope was 4,942 feet long. Let's call it 5,000. And they were only allowed they had controls on the hoist. Men should not get in the cage without a red light. When that was on, the hoist could only travel 1,000 feet per minute. Mike would then get out of the cage at 1185. He would walk 1,200 feet over to the auxiliary slope and wait for a cage there, which would take him down to 2,100. That was the last working level that we had there. And that was another 2,700 feet down to there. That cage did run slower. And then when he got down onto 2,100, well, if he was lucky enough, he would find a man car, and he had to go 4,500 feet before they hit the ore body out there. And when they got there, into their area, then they could start drilling or whatever he had to do. And they were roughly 8,000 feet down.
You couldn't rush out for a breath of fresh air till morning, could you, huh?
The air was good down there. When they drilled and blasted, yes, it was terrible, but they had ventilation even at the bottom of the mine. They would close off the upper levels with steel doors, and that temperature was about 52 degrees all the time. Coming up through Donby, there was a regular breeze coming up there, nice.
So you mean you sweat? He made you work so hard you sweat when it was 52 degrees, Mike?
well, no, wait a minute. Now that's another story. When I told them I was cold, we were cleaning out the mine. They shut the mine down, and he was the boss of the five of us. There's five of us, Jack, and we just maintained the pumps and did odd jobs, and so, you know, this day I come and I told him, I said, gee, we were doing something. And I said, gee, Jack, I'm cold. He said, you're not working hard enough. I don't know if I ain't talked to him since today.
Well, I'm so glad I got you guys back together. I hope there's no hard feelings. After all, that's all.
I never know hard feelings, but I'll never forget it, though.
And how many years ago would that be? 20-some, right?
That was in 75, maybe, somewhere on there.
Well, I'm glad you guys didn't have to duke it out right there on the scene. Martin, get in here now. These guys, I'll tell you, you got them going on both sides of you here.
No, you asked Mike what the heck he did after after the mine shut down. I felt like a young man yet. I couldn't just sit around, so put an application. Emerita Hess was looking for engineers, so I filled out an application. They asked for a resume. I sent it to them, and they took me down to New Jersey, down to the main headquarters for an interview with a man named Ed Sapp, who was the head engineer for all of Amarada Hess. And evidently he was going to give me the job. But while I was there, I went over and interviewed for a foreman's job at the Port Reed and Refinery, which is old Leon Hess's pet project. I talked to Mr. Thompson there, and he said, well, if the first job don't pan out, you can have this job. They needed 8 foremen, and they had only 7. He said, you'll feel at home, 5 of them are Polish. So, come back home, and I found out there's a job open here in Ticonderoga for Amarada Hess. They maintain a 3 oil tanks where they supplied an international paper company what they call bunker oil, number 6 oil. And at that time, they were using approximately 450,000 gallons a week. So we would store it and treat it, make sure it's the right product to ship to the paper mill, and then once a week we'd make a pipeline. During the winter months we'd make 2 pipelines. It's a mile away. We'd pump it over there about, depending on the temperature oil, but average around 65,000 gallons an hour we could pump over there. So when I come back home, I found out it was opening there. I went down there, found the job was opening, so I called up the headquarters to ask them if I could take the job up here. I was 51 years old then, so they don't hire people at 51, Amarada Hess. And I said, I'll be in the organization. If you want me, I'll go into the engineering job. They wanted me to kind of, wherever there's any construction, go down there and make sure they follow the blueprints. And they said, okay. He said, but we wanted you to go into the engineering because we were going to put you in school for 2 months. And I said, I'd rather be here. I know it's less money, but I'd be with my family here. So I worked for them right up till about from 72 to 83. Then I got a couple of men over because they sold out. Hess sold tanks to IP. So I broke in the crew and stayed with them for a year and a half, and then I retired. So about 1985, I retired from working. And they just shut the place down this year. They're going to truck directly into IP rather than store it. Because it costs, the boilers, we use about 130,000 gallons of oil, and those boilers just keep the oil hot. So, you know, but right now, they're using 650, 700,000 gallons a week. So it's a big expense for IP.
That's great stories. Jack, explain to us a little bit now. We're sitting in a place that was, actually this building was a carriage house, but they used it as a lab for a while, didn't they? This building way back before you got involved, didn't they analyze some of their ore in this building, I heard them say? Or don't you know?
I do not know.
I know it was a carriage house, and it was used for 2 or 3 other things through the years, right?
When the furnace was running, they used this for a lab for a while, but it was before our time where we were big enough to know what's going on, but I heard the same thing.
Okay, so, but anyway, how far were the mines from where we're sitting right now?
In a straight line, 5,000 feet. Wait a minute, 5 miles. 5 miles. You're up in Mineville. Approximately that.
About 5 miles. Well, let's tell exactly the whole process and how the ore got down here and what happened out here in the lake and so on.
They would bring it up out of the mine. The miners had to break it down to 15-inch size to go through a grizzly. And then...
All right, hold it. What the heck is a grizzly? I know what a grizzly is, and it doesn't sound like my idea of a bear.
It is a series of bars, 3 by 6, wide enough to dump a mine car onto the top of. That would limit the size that they could get into the pocket. Anything larger than that, they had to break with a hammer or with a jackhammer, one or the other, and a part of a stick of dynamite. They put it in the pocket. It would be hoisted up to the surface, well, on 9 Slope first, then transferred over to Don B, and then hoisted in Don B. Don B skip weighed 11 ton, and the average load in the skip was 15 ton. It would travel at 2,500 feet a minute, approximately 30 miles an hour. They had pocket men, 2 pocket men at the bottom of the slope. They would fill a measuring chute And then when the skip did come back down to them, they were in balance all of the time. And when the skip did come down and park there, the hoistman would give them a bell, and they would immediately dump the load in there. I was out one evening on a trouble call. Had a time study on, and it actually took them 15 seconds to put 15 ton in that skip, and then it was on the way back up.
Think about that.
After it got to the surface, it went through a jaw crusher, through a grizzly again.
Okay.
And the oversize went into the jaw crusher, 48 by 64. And that would be cut down to 3 to 4 to 5 inches in that area. It would be stored in bins. The #1 crushing plant would then take that ore and crush it in the #1 crushing plant through 2 gyratory crushers, 4 1/4 and 5 1/2. They'd crush it down to 3/8 inch and take a lot of the rock out and put it into a railroad car then, and then send it down to Mr. Bison.
And what did Mr. Bison do with it?
Well, it was all crushed to a certain size. Like I say, #2 stone was the largest. But they'd come up on a trestle. They could take 18 cars up on a trestle at a time, set the air brakes. Diesel, pick up the empties, go to mine, we'll get more. Then it was up on a slope. So we'd take 5, 6 cars at a time. 2, 3 men, we'd brake them slowly, stop over a bend, and dump them. Summertime, no problem. Wintertime, it was kind of rough going because, the ore freeze and all that. And hardly ever a winter went by without somebody getting hurt. I know we had one guy, the wrench got loose, just split his head wide open, but he lived. But he's living with a steel plate in his head. And eventually they found out, come up with a shaker. It'd be up above the track, and as you go underneath it, you lower it, turn on the thing, and it would just pound the car, and the men didn't have to go up with bars and shovels and sledgehammers anymore. So, of course, the crew went from 6 down to 3 men. They could handle it easily. And that would go into 5 holding bends. And underneath the bends, you had vibrators would feed it to 3 separate units, whichever is required. And you try to regulate the ore going into the bends to make sure no one unit's going down while 2 are running, because you're losing money. You keep them, the ore in the bends such a way that all 3 units are going. They shut down completely, not one unit going and 2 down. Go up through first process, it goes up to the top floor. The mill, of course, was built on a gravity system. So as you come up on conveyor to the top floor, it goes to what they call roughers. That had a lot to do with them roughers. They're a large magnet, the belt going underneath it over the top. As the ore comes underneath it, of course, the ore slaps up against that belt and rides up with that belt up above it, holding it there, and it dumps into the head hopper. That's your first process of separation. It's a rough separation. What goes off the back end is beginning to trip up the tailing pile, the tailings. This goes on the screen where they screen it. The bigger stuff, it goes over a mesh that goes into a rod mill, because some of them little coarse pieces of ore will contain minute particles of tailings, and they want to get it as pure as possible. So they would go in a rod mill that you'd be crushed, and they would go through the same thing again, over screen, down to another, what they call finishers. It's the same as the roughers, only it's a finished product. What goes through there goes into dryers, big filters, and it suck 90-some% of the water out of it. It's damp, but it's not wet. Goes onto a conveyor, goes up to the sending plant, where they cook it with coal dust and what they call pug, which is the fine cinder that went through the grizzlies again, and to help ignite it. So then go up there, they make the cinder out of it. Goes on a long bed, ignited with the dust coal they put in there, and it's, I don't know what the speed when it reaches where they started to the further end.
About 21, 22 inches per minute, depending on the type of ore.
So if it had good suction, all the holes are plugged up. It didn't have too many holes. It would draw all that flame all the way down through it. It'd be cooked by the time it got to the further end. So when it goes over the pulley for its return, the cinder would be made then and would just drop off into shooting the railroad cars. And that's your byproduct. That's the product you were making. That would go to your blast furnaces.
We were capable of 3,000 ton per day, any concentrates we had over that would be shipped to Youngstown or Buffalo and combined with the dust from the furnaces there and made into cinder out there.
Did you say, is that word cinder?
S-I-N-T-E-R. Cinder.
Yeah, I see. That's another word that's completely new to me. I was thinking you were talking about cinder, C-I-N-D-E-R.
No.
Whole different ballgame.
The bigger the cinder, the bigger the chunks, the better the furnaces, because I don't understand the blast furnaces, but if it's fine stuff, they're making, well, I won't call it a slang word, but bologna or something.
Yeah.
A lot of that would go up in the air, dust. And the furnaces would lose money on that, right, Jack?
Sure.
The bigger the chunks, the better for the furnaces.
The cinder plant bed would dump off again on a grizzly.
Look, here we go. You're going to do that to me all day. I know what it is now. I can picture it.
This was set at 1 inch, and anything that would go through there would be taken back up into the pug mill with the concentrates and column and put onto the bed, leveled up, ignited, and then make cinder out of it. The return fines make the bed more porous. The air comes up through it. You got a 600 horsepower fan pulling air down through that bed. 100,000 cubic feet.
I'm sure it's hard for the average viewer of this program to even fathom the size of that operation. It had to be just unbelievable.
When Jack mentioned column, that's what he means is coal dust.
Anthrofine, I guess, is the right name.
You can use the slang words as long as you explain to me what they are. I mean, you know.
That's what they call it, yeah.
But then it all had to end up down here, right?
No,
7 mil.
7 mil.
no. After they make it, they ship it right out to the blast furnaces by railroad car.
At the end, D&H would pick it up there at 7 mil below the scales and bring it down and take it out there.
They utilized this place in case of one time there was a strike, which it didn't involve us. Remember that? So they kept running, and we kept dumping the cinder here on the dock. And other times, and the man for he was down, the furnace might be down. They kept running, and they stockpiled the cinder. And when the market opened up, they loaded up at the big overhead crane again.
We should tell people who can't see with any perspective because we're inside a building that we're not very far from Lake Champlain.
Very, very close to it. Next door.
That's the reason.
I can throw a stone in it from here almost.
I want to see that, Jack. We're going to get out there. Then you can tell who's sweating, right, Mike?
That's right. Yeah, now we get it. But,
Come on, I want to hear some more stories. He's over here waiting. Listen to everybody else tell us what grizzlies are and cinders and everything.
I'll just tell you, when I got hired, there was a man, Chuck Dewey. He was a mine captain up in Fisher Hill in late 1941. I asked him for a job, and he looked at me. He said, "I'm going to give you a job, but we don't know what the hell we're going to do with you. You're so small." But come to find out, I was the last man on the job. After he said he don't know what he's going to do with me. Well, anyway, he said, "I'm going to give you 45 cents an hour." That's the going wage then, 45 cents.
Imagine that.
And, well, I was glad to get a job. I just quit a job at 20 cents an hour. So 45 sounded pretty goddamn good to me. So I worked for him for a little while, and he says, "You're a pretty good worker, Mike." He says, "I'm going to give you 55 cents.
Ooh, big time now.
So big shot I was. I went bragging to the other guys what I was getting. There was no flat rate for anybody. There was no union. So I was telling them guys, "Boy, Chuck just gave me a 10 cents raise." Bragging, so they hollered about a raise. He said, "Why didn't you keep your mouth shut?" He said, "You got to tell everybody now." He says, "I got to give everybody a raise," he says, "or take yours away from you." I said, "Well, maybe it'd be better to give the other guys a raise." But that was in 1941. I worked Fisher Hill Mine. Then I worked in the Clonan Mine. And I worked in Harmony Mine. I worked Obed. And that's when What was that shaft this side of Cologne, Jack? We used to go down in Bonanza.
Well, now you're into a name that would be familiar to me. Huh?
Yeah.
We'll bring old Hoss back there.
Yeah, well, that there was just, I remember that vaguely now, I don't remember it but I did go down that shaft. I used to go down like this and then pretty near level off there.
Out through the ore body.
Yeah. That's how, in them days, I guess they used to follow the ore. And,
They followed at the ore there and then went down to 170.
Yeah, 170 down in Cologne. That run a good many years at Cologne. Oh, God, I don't know, but it was too bad that we couldn't get down there and take some pit. You would never believe. You couldn't explain what was down there with the high roofs like Jack was saying and men working on the top of them. They'd look just like little guys like that were so high. And it was amazing. But I worked a little over in Cologne, and I told you about the orchard there. But I don't know if anybody alive is ever to the orchard.
Well, I'm sure there is. Harry Hickok called me up a month or two ago, and he wanted to know if he could bring me in some stuff for the Historical Society. I said, sure. He came in, and of course I sat him down in the living room. We started to talk about 21 Pit there. He worked on those pillars. And I asked him, I said, Harry, I know you put that ladder up against the pillar way to the top, but then how did you ever use a machine on the top there to get started to get that 8-foot shelf off? He said, very carefully.
I was going to ask that question, and I knew there'd be a cute answer to it. I can't even imagine going up a ladder that big.
Surprised me more men weren't killed on them.
There was somebody had pitches. Do you know how they used to go from one pillar to the top of one pillar to the other?
I have lots of pictures of that.
Yeah, and they used to drill holes. Well, they go up one pillar and drill holes this way and put the pins in. I never was up there, so.
Put the pins in the roof and hang a section of the catwalk out. Then they would go out to the end of the section of the catwalk and aim it in like that. And go another section. They'd have a catwalk.
I can't imagine what it was like to walk across that.
Oh, I'll tell you, I never was on there. I never worked up there. But boy, I'm going to tell you, when you see him work up there, you didn't. Well, I was going to say something, but I can't. But it bothered you just to see them people up there. I used to watch it. I couldn't watch them too long.
I have an active imagination, and my stomach is going, yeah, I can imagine. Unfortunately, Jack, back in those days, we didn't have the compact video cameras, so we probably don't have even any movies of the insides of those mines, right?
No.
Unfortunately, we have to rely on still photographs, so I hope the imaginations of our viewers are good enough to get this picture today.
This is so important that we leave it in the Historical Society. I think this is great. We're going to get a copy of this video, I hope.
Well, you absolutely are, because, in 40 years from now, you guys aren't going to be here. Maybe even 38 or 39 years from now.
Let me tell you one more story.
I hope you do. I hope you tell me two more.
Mike should have told you this one, but Art Brace was working in 21 Open Pit on the north side. The bank on the north side is about at a 30-degree angle, and it's a long way down there where that kid went in. The troopers measured it at 650 feet to where they went underground. But anyway, Art was down on a ladder. His two partners were up on the bank. He went down about 35 feet and was scaling it. They were going to put some more holes in and blast it. He got down 35 feet, had the bar out there pricking away, and he got an awful blow in the stomach. It doubled him right up. He fell to the ladder, but it didn't knock him out. He reached inside of his shirt and come out with blood and I think there was blood there, and a .32 rifle cartridge. he got hold of the safety line and got back up the ladder and hollered at his two partners. They immediately took him over to the hospital, which was only perhaps 100 yards away or 200 yards. They walked him over. They dressed it there and, of course, turned it into the troopers, and then took him down to Dr. Glavin. It did not penetrate the stomach, but it was right there. The troopers went down onto Joyce Road and found a Rogers kid, 18 years old, target practicing with a
Yeah.
.32 rifle.
Come on. That was a spook accident.
How would
It
that
wouldn't
happen?
happen once again in a million times.
Where did that cartridge have to go to get to him?
Just up and down.
That's just up and down.
Right into the.
And thank God it was just far enough away so it landed there.
And that.
Had enough of a kickback to keep him from falling off the ladder.
Well, he was on a safety rope.
Yeah,
He-
He didn't know what happened to him. I mean,
No,
his mind was saying, okay, now what?
Yeah.
What a story. When would that have been?
1951.
How many years after that did he get killed? He got killed, was it 4 or 5 years after that?
Maybe more. I don't know. I'm not sure.
In a mining accident or?
Yeah. He got, they were scraping, I don't know how to, well, they were scraping and this rope goes between, in one side the shiv, out the other, you know, and he was right in line with the shiv, which safety rules always tell you, don't get in line with that shiv, you know. And that the pin on that shiv broke with the tension on it. It hit him right here in the whole block, the whole shiv come right at him. And
Jack, you're going to have to tell me what a shiv is. I'm just up to grizzlies, you know. Oh, that's a pulley?
Yeah,
All right, here we go.
Go ahead,
I'll
Jack.
get one, I'll bring one.
with a hook on it. Just a pulley, 8-inch pulley with a hook on it.
I got rope blocks. You got the shiv. You know,
Like
the-
a rope block, you've seen double rope blocks. Well, this is a big iron one. So the cable go through it and on the other side, and the safety rules always tell you never line up with that. If anything breaks, it's coming right to you. You know, one of them, he went over to check it out, and well, the guy was still scraping, and that pulley broke the pin on it, hit him in the chest. That's the same guy got shot with the bullet there.
About the only two things can happen: the pin break or the cable snap. Then if you're
Well, if
standing
the
back-
cable snapped, that pulley would never come to you.
No, but the cable will come at you.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
the-
well, yeah, the cable, but, you know,
Yeah.
but,
Hey, that could do a job, too.
oh, that cable, yeah, that cut a couple of legs off, that cable did, but when Tom Tilley walked into that one of them coils of the cable, and the guy tightened the rope up, cut his leg off, you know, but there was,
A lot of accidents. But not as bad as when Witherbee Sherman was here.
no.
Why was that bad, Mark?
Well, Republic Steel, they practice safety first a lot. They installed a new set of rules, and they were strict on it. But Witherbee Sherman was, well, like I say, no union, no nothing.
No.
And you
When
want to
you
work
didn't-
here, you don't, go on home. They didn't care. And more dangerous conditions working in the mines on the surface everywhere. So you had a lot of deaths. You had deaths on the DNA, on the LCM. You had it down at the cinder plant. But Republic Steel had a good safety program. I got to say that.
We had safety meetings every Monday. Anything that you thought was unsafe in them mines, they wanted to hear about it.
Yeah.
They don't care what it was or what it cost the company to fix or anything. They wanted you to bring it up and explain what they could do to make it better. Then the accidents start less and less, and it was a pretty good place to work.
Did the company take care of you if you got hurt? You didn't have health insurance, right?
No, you had compensation if you were off sick. I injured my back bad back in late 60s. At the point I had to have an operation in the spring of 71. But it came out good. It didn't bother again for 19 years, so the operation was good. But even now, I call up down there, you say you're still covered in case I need medication or something. So we had good coverage and all that.
Yeah,
As far as, and especially if you're hurt on a job, they'll take care of you.
I can see Jack's mind's working over here, and he's leafing through things and looking over things.
For the last couple of days there, I thought I'd mark down things which might interest some people.
All interesting to me. Go for it.
In 1873, the ore dock was right here, and in that year, they loaded 2,623 barges and took them down to the steel mills with ore. 2 barges in a day were loaded by 4 men and wheelbarrows.
Oh, man.
100-ton barges.
Oh, my. I'd like to meet those men today. Talk about John Henry, huh?
They were
Steel driving man.
Thank you.
Best line of the day, Calvin. I wish we'd have had the microphone over there. Calvin said, I bet they weren't cold. Wow. Those were the days, huh?
In 1952, we had a payroll in the town of Moriah of 4,458,000. In 54, the payroll was 5,395,000 with 930 men employed. Let me just go on with a few facts. In the Witherbee-Sherman years, that's from 1846 up to 1938, the old-timers got out 33,963,000 ton of ore. When Republic Steel took over in 38, they from then until 71, they took out 37,043,307 tons of ore. Noted if you go through Mineville especially, it's noted for block houses. Yes. Witherbee-Sherman made the blocks, and in 1901 to 1910, they put up 56 of these block houses. And they continued after that, but that's what they have a record of. And in the 40s, Republic Steel owned everything then. They had 470 homes, and in the town were 5 dormitories, 60 people each, and 207 homes in Grover Hills for 430 families. I lived in one of those block houses. It was good to live there in a block house. Republic had electricians and carpenters and plumbers to take care of your every trouble. So you didn't mind it so bad. I paid $35 a month.
Everything, you have to put everything in perspective, you know. $35 a month, huh? That's amazing.
That probably includes everything but your electricity.
Witherbee-Sherman did own the power company around town, but they got rid of it in the early 40s.
Companies own just about everything, didn't they? That's what puts me in mind of that old Tennessee Ernie Ford song, 16 tons and what do you get, huh?
Yeah, that's what you
The company store and the company houses
saw in that film. You could have that in the background.
and the company electricity. And,
Have that in the background. 16 ton, what do you get?
They had the company store, and you had to utilize it too.
maybe we can let you sing it, Mike, huh? You can.
For a price, yeah.
Yeah.
Do anything for a price.
What other facts have you got there? Did you give us most of them? Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those because that gives you an idea of the scope of this operation. This wasn't a team of 15 men that did what we're talking about. We're talking big time. $5 million back then would be the equivalent of well over 20 million now.
Way over that, yes, yeah.
So this was big time. This is what sustained this region for many, many years.
Minerals that you showed me that are in that tailings yet. You got a whole list of minerals still in that tailings that we thought they were going to start it up and start running it, but
And it's obviously it's worth it or they wouldn't even think about it.
The tailings pile up there, Molycorp took samples of it. They took 14 samples and checked it out for everything. They had 0.032% uranium, 0.15% thorium, and 11.14% rare earths. The rare earths, they identify them with their elements which have an atomic number 57 to 71. All that is saying is the number of positive in the nucleus, the problem with this, and I shouldn't be talking, I don't know much about it, but the uranium is there and it's radioactive. The thorium is there and it's radioactive. This tailings pile is right out here. It's all radioactive. But it doesn't, if you're out in the air.
Hold my watch right next to it before I leave.
If you're out in the air, don't bother you. I think with that uranium and thorium in it, what will they do with it when they process it? You can't discharge that anywhere now. They shoot you.
Yeah. Whole different set of rules these days than there were back when you guys started in this business. I think we've explained a lot of that here today.
Talking about the end of our operation in the late 60s, well, before that, the ore that they found in the open pit and everywhere else was traveling in a southwesterly direction. It would roll and heave and everything else, but roughly at a 30-degree angle. And when it got down near 550 level, they had force slope going in the right direction. It was with the ore. But the ore turned to the southeast. So we had Donby slope going this way and the ore going this way. So when we got down to 2100, we were 4,500 feet away from it. And so you go through that, and to put 4,500 mile adrift in, that's expensive. What they did then was they leased a boring machine, set it up on 2100 in the late 60s, and bored down to 2400. We had geologists in Cleveland who would not agree to the total reserves that are here. And they went down to 2400 level with this machine. It would only drill a 1.5 foot per hour. That's the maximum it did. That's what it averaged. They went down there and they set up diamond drill holes down on 2400, and they proved the ore body down there. If we could have got a vertical shaft, it would have cost $1 million. Right down into that, right there, the men put the muck right in the pile and bring it up, take it to the mill, still use the mill. It would have been, we would have been back in business, but.
Yeah, it's easy to say what if. Huh?
What if? They did have, they hired a plane to go over with a magnetometer on the back, and they agreed with our people here that there are 42 million ton of ore down there.
It started again. Wouldn't that be amazing? I wonder if it would ever happen.
The steel business is changing too, though. They're using raw materials, scrap iron, not so much ore anymore. But if you could get it cheap enough, sure they could.
Martin, what's up there right now? If you were to go up there, what would you find up to the mines?
Up to the mill.
Yeah.
The entire mill is there, but they let it go to just neglected. The roof got holes in it. Rain's been coming in on the motors, but all the equipment's there just the way we were running it. Nothing been taken out of the mill. The cinder plant, of course, has been demolished. That's been pretty well deteriorated. One funny thing I'll tell you down here, when number 6 was going, we were working down here, that's when the federal government, because World War II was on, they allowed the Republic of Steel to dump the waste into the lake. They formed a sandy beach. And the entire beach was formed by from the mines, the byproduct. And we had used to pump up to a high point, and the water in the tailings would go into a sluice, and that would go down into the lake and spread out. And we had to go out there one Saturday to repair it, put some conveyor belt in it, had some holes, and we were working with Jarvis Langtang. Remember him? So Jarvis, a big beard, he's working and had about that much water going through it all the time. And it was clear water because the mill was down on a Saturday. And the brook was running by there. So we went down there around lunchtime. Geez, there was great big suckers running up there in the spring. So we got a 5-gallon pail. We took about 7 of them up, dumped them up in the sluice when drivers were down below. They come swimming down.
That had to be a little bit of a thrill.
He ran down to number 6 mill, telling Mr. Myers, shut down everything. He said, all the fish are going through the mill. So Mr. Myers come up. He said, Martin, what's going on? So I had to tell him. I said, we just tried to pull a joke.
Sense of humor then, and still got a sense of humor now. I imagine you had to have a sense of humor, because that was what you guys did was hard work.
Yeah, like I say, the mill's still there, but the cinder plant, it was so obsolete, and so I went up there, though, just a pile of tin in the middle of what the floor used to be. But yeah, Jack was talking about these grizzlies, the fine stuff going into these big bins underneath it. And when you're making poor cinder, of course, you get that much more fines going in. And somehow all them bins got loaded up, and one day they just start peeling off, and the whole thing went down.
Come on.
God, it took 2 weeks.
Longer.
24 hours a day. I mean, just to shovel that ore out of there, take it outside, and then so we could start repairing it. But they put it all back together. They did a good job.
So I suppose it wouldn't be worthwhile trying to mount some kind of a campaign to save that mill, huh? For the sake of history, that would be probably cost prohibitive.
I do not see any sense to saving it. It is in such terrible shape.
Oh, it is?
You can see more blue sky than you can see
Yeah.
the roof. Like he says, it's terrible, terrible, terrible.
Going up there, Mike, you must get a few memories when you walk around the place, huh?
Up where we worked in the mines, well, right now, if you didn't work in the mines, you wouldn't know where the shaft was, or you wouldn't know where anything is. They sealed everything off. These guys have worked in the sintering plant, the plant up there. Well, the buildings are still there, but Mineville and Witherbee there, you could go right over Don B, you wouldn't know where you're at, right?
How do they block them off?
But they put steel on, in the case of Don B, they put steel vertical up and then just backfilled it about 50 or 60 feet down the slope. And right now, the town is thinking about going back there for water. When we shut down, we were pumping, we had a 75 horsepower pump operating 24 hours a day, and it pumped to the 200,000 gallon reservoir on Barton Hill. It took care of all of the Mineville and Witherbee water supply. The minute they shut that pump down and shut, everything was gone. We haven't had good water since.
Well, let's get it going again. We'll let that be your campaign for the next 6 months.
What water they pump out of there? They ever, the volume, they ever come up with a figure?
They guess at it, yes. The water is supposed to come out at 2003, but who knows?
But it's good water.
It was the best of water. They did chlorinate it, but that's all it took. They checked it continually.
How high do you think the water is in the mines?
I have,
They're full now, huh?
no.
Oh, you don't think so?
There's miles of mining, you know, all the old,
It's still hard for me to get a picture in my mind as to how massive that operation was.
Oh, some places with a very good light, you can't see the roof.
Come on. Now I'm getting the picture. That big.
Oh, yeah. That ore would come over and might drop down, and they would take all of it, and then they wouldn't go back in there. Let me tell you one nice story.
Yeah, why don't you tell me another nice story?
Mining.
That's good stuff.
I don't know exactly what year this was, but I had the bright idea. We used to put Christmas trees up around all over and decorations, and I decided that it would be great to put a good big tree up on that tailings pile.
Oh, boy.
So I went to Francis Myers, and he said, sure, go ahead, general manager. We got a bulldozer, went out and got a tree that was, 20 to 25 feet high, took it up with the bulldozer, set it up there. Up there it was beautiful. They had lights all over it. It was beautiful up there. I couldn't wait that night till it got dark. I went down the road by the cemetery there, looked back at the mill, and that tree looked about
We're so tiny. All of that work on the bulldozer, huh? You know what I'd like to do now, gentlemen, with your approval, is just take a little break for a second and then walk around and look at some of these photographs and have you connect your memories with those. How's that sound, Martin?
Good enough.
Okay with you, Michael?
Yeah, that's great.
We'll be doing that as our little corner continues from Port Henry.
Hey, Jack.
It's probably taken off of Mount Tom down into the village.
All right, now start again. That's probably Mount Tom, you said, Jack?
Taken.
Oh, taken from Mount Tom.
Yeah, the camera was up on Mount Tom. I can see,
Walk right up there and point at it.
no, I am
Oh,
wrong.
okay.
I'm wrong. This is off of Belfry Mountain. This is number 4 mill tailing pile here. That has been turned over to the county, and they're using it for road construction and so on.
I should have read the thing. It says from Belfry Mountain.
Well,
See,
See how-
sometimes it's a good thing I learned to read.
the piles in here are in Mineville, and those are the ones with old bed ore in them. They're being saved. This has been sold to the county. This one has been given to or sold to the town. This is saved by Roan Palank. This is number 7 mill here. And if that were a good picture, you could see Lake Champlain there.
In the background. I don't know who this guy is right here, the skinny belly. That wasn't taken that long ago, was it, Mark?
No, that's, what, a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, wasn't it, Jack?
And that's all.
Yeah.
Bob Carpenter, I think I saw him there when we had the ceremony, didn't I?
He started working for the company ahead of me, but he ended up on a tailing pile, and then they brought him into the millwright, and then we all worked together.
You know, before I move on to these other pictures, I want to pursue that thing about the company store, and you better support the company back in those days. What was that really like?
Well, I don't remember it. Just listen to my parents talk. They used to have a company store, and you were told to buy everything from the company store. I don't know if you remember that or not.
No.
That was certainly a monopoly, wasn't it?
No, that's years and years ago. If you didn't do that, you don't have no job. And it's
That's the way it was up in Lion Mountain. I've heard the old timers talk about that. You had to support the company store.
yeah, that's just what it was. It's the same as Line Mountain. Quite a few of the Line Mountain men come down here to work after they shut down, which was what, maybe 5 years earlier than us. Something like that.
66.
There's a new ruling come in the union. In case of a plant shutdown, Republic Steel would have to take any man displaced here before they could hire anybody in any of their holdings in the United States. You have a choice to go there. That's why a lot of the boys went to Buffalo, and some went to Pennsylvania and different places to fill out their years to get enough pension time, and then they retired. But they had to hire displaced men before they hired new men, and which was a good thing because
Yeah.
a lot of those boys would have lost their pension.
Well, that happened because we had the unions in there. Otherwise, you just went home. That's the way that went down.
Everybody's going to go back and listen to 16 Tons now and see what those,
That's
you
the
know,
song.
deeper in debt.
That guy must have worked in the mines. He knows all about it.
I'm sure somebody else wrote it. I doubt if the old pea picker Tennessee Ernie Ford ever went down in a mine in his life. Wait a minute, who's this guy over here? He looks like he might be famous. Dr. Jack Brennan, maybe?
Yeah, that's Jack Brennan, all right.
Right up in
there
the corner. There you are.
This is was the main office in Mineville. It is now the community building.
Yeah.
The Memorial Hall is right at the foot of those stairs, is now the VFW.
Might give you a pretty good workout just going up those stairs.
Oh, yes.
Just to the right over here is where the Mineville Hospital is right now.
Really?
Yeah, just a matter of less than 100 yards.
And this is where I found out about Joan when I was here, and she wondered how I knew what her maiden name was when I said Joan Crawford's here, just by reading this during the process. Some wonderful old photographs that probably bring back a few memories for her, I would imagine, huh?
That's what's his name, Moon Matraw's brother. He used to work in the supply room when he shut down. Bernie Matraw.
Bernie, yeah.
That's Bernie, I recognize him.
Yeah. I got some pictures home I got to get and bring down here.
I think you should. Come on around back here, because Jack is just walking up and down from one foot to the other to talk about these blockhouses and this what we see in this giant picture that we got going over here. Let Kelvin walk around the corner so he can get a shot at it. So what do we got, Jack?
This is the camera's on Mount Tom taking a picture of the Don B area right here. This is Wasson Street. This is the Harmony. Oh, that's the old bed tailings pile. Harmony is here. If you look up here, you can see the open pit, 21 open pit right there. This is Don B shaft. You can see it going down here. Goes down at 26.5 degrees here, and it bends over 3 times on the way down. But on the bottom of the slope, it flattens out so the skip can get it. The hoist will have enough torque to get it started. There are 2 storage bins here. Don B hoist here. The ropes are along the ground and go up to the head pulley. Number 1 crushing plant, joker, old bed change house that hasn't been used in years and years and years. Number 1 powerhouse. The hoist was in there for a joker when it operated. It is out of the picture entirely. Up here is the VFW, and this picture is old enough so it shows the elementary school and the high school. Somewhere right up here, that's the hospital, and that's the community building now. It was the Republic Steel office.
Johnny Padres went to school there. That's absolutely right. Right there where Martin said, yeah. Now we talk about the blockhouses. We can show people what they are, built built out of tailings, right?
All out of tailing, yeah.
All out of tailings. And people can see precisely what they look like, and I can see many of our viewers saying, oh, I've seen those, because a lot of them still exist.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty strong stuff, huh?
In town, there was the Spanish settlement going up Belfry Mountain. There was the Italian boarding house, and there was the Polish and
French boarding house.
yeah.
I stayed there for about 10 or 12 years.
Oh, sure.
Hog Alley, yeah.
We're gonna get 'em. They're gonna come down after us. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there's some nice pictures there. There's some more pictures out there. When people learn about this museum, I'm sure we'll bring them down and.
Oh, I'm certain they will. This is just the very beginning. It was hard enough to get this museum open on time and get it to where it is today. But the way it's going to look 2 or 3 or 4 years from now, and maybe, Jack, maybe, just maybe, there'll be a video camera over in the corner playing back this interview from people 20 years from now. Wouldn't that be nice?
I hope so.
You gotta give me 22.
Well, I don't know. You told us some pretty good stories. What do you say we move along here and talk about some of the other things?
They'll each get 1 plus the museum.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, here's quite a group of people right over here. I recognize some of the faces here. I bet you do too.
Yeah. That was about a month or so ago we came over here, had these pictures taken. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It was all with Jack there and himself.
Rosenquist, Sweet, Jack, Teresa, Joni, right here.
Oh, Frank Boyle, that there, yeah. That's it, right over.
Louis, Dominic, John, yeah, they're all, them guys are still living, I think.
Well, I hope they are. That picture was only taken a short time ago.
Well, hey, a lot could happen in a month, but not a month.
Get on over here, because this should bring right into focus something that you were talking about before, Jack, about how you went down. That's the cage, right?
That is the man cage. That is the lower cage. There's 32 men in this. On the top cage, there's 48. They did away with that they didn't have them very long. There are no safety devices on the bottom cage, and they had to store both cages, well, actually they had 4 cages up in the portal house. You just didn't have room for it. So when they developed to 1185 level, they put a sidetrack in, put the skip out on the sidetrack, and let the man carriage, and used only one, put it in the middle. The man cage will have safety dogs on the bottom of it. There will be 5 big iron bars, 2 or 3 inches thick, 6 inches wide. If the tension comes off of the rope, that will drop down and catch the ties and stop the cage.
Thank goodness. I was beginning to worry how I was going to be saved. Another one's on the way up, is that it?
Another one's on the way up. Yeah. The rope is 5,650 feet long, and after one hoisting shift, that rope will have stretched 30 feet.
Come on. Yeah. I know you're telling me the truth, but boy, it's hard to imagine that.
It's hard for me to realize that, but that's the way
It
it
ain't
is.
hard for me. I run a hoist and I had to change the marks every time. You know, you pull up 4 or 5 cages, you have to change the marks on the indicator and on
I
your.
see the marks.
Yeah.
This fellow must be a driller. See the bits he's got?
Yeah. Got him around his neck.
Now we haven't talked about men who worked contracts in here who were paid a flat rate per ton for the ore. Did that really happen?
Oh, sure.
For sure.
All contract work.
All contract work?
Yeah, well, Jack knows more about that than the mines.
If you're on a drift, for instance, you got so much per foot, and if you were on a contract, it's so much per ton. Take it out. You had to weigh the car going out and weigh it coming back in, put it through the grizzly.
Thank God it went through the grizzly. Boy, that really bothers me.
That's how they got work done. They put you on a contract. If you didn't want to work, you didn't make no money. If you wanted to work, you fulfilled your contract and you made good money.
So those guys didn't get cold?
No, that's how they get cold like me.
52 degrees down there. What does this show down here, Jack?
That's a scraper.
Okay.
This is the scraper, and this is the slusher hoist. This was a device for extending the Fisher Hill slope down. The man was right over on the side of it here. And the scraper actually put it up through here and into the skip, and then they would raise the muck up. I think there's only one of them.
And there's Les over here. Wait a minute.
There's a grizzly.
There's
Goodness.
the grizzly. There's
Get
the
a
grizzly.
good picture of that grizzly. Well, you may never see one again unless you're attacked by one in the North Woods somewhere. So that's what, your explanation was perfect. That's just the way I had visioned it based on your explanation. There's Lester up there, and here's Archie, another hoist operator, right?
Yeah, he'd been gone. He went away and, his father was a big boss in the mines too, wasn't he? Yeah.
What's he got in his hand?
I don't know.
What is that? It's over there in the cabinet, but what is that? What is this in his hand right here?
On that boring machine that I mentioned going down from 2100 down, they went along and were drilling. They stopped and brought it back, and that piece broke off of the front. It was not pulverized.
I didn't know if that was some kind of a piece of artwork. I took a look at it before. Now we can just slip on over here, and you guys can just explain a little bit about what we have in these cabinets here. I never would have known. I thought that was going to be some kind of petrified miniature spaceship or something, right? I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, well, you got me too. When I come in, I didn't know what it was, but I'm glad somebody explained it to me.
Now we got what do we got down here on the floor, Jack?
The remains of a pig. It's oversized. That came from the blast furnace in some manner.
There's Port Henry on it. Another one on the bottom.
Any that I'm familiar with were much smaller.
We got some old lanterns.
We got a diamond drill core here. They continually diamond drill to make sure where the ore was. You got the carbide lights. They would have a can of carbide on your hip, and usually you could pick up water somewhere and fill the can. Of course, the mine hats. This is a would go back to before 1900. It is the only light they had then when they were drilling by hand. They would use a sledgehammer, a 20-pound sledge, and a drill. One guy would hold and one guy would hit. And
I hope they were good friends.
I knew one man that actually,
It didn't take them long not to be friends.
another oil,
You said you knew somebody who did that?
Martin Hookrow was the only man that I ever knew that did that. He did. He was a compressor man when I knew him.
I don't know whose pair of boots that would be over there, but they look like they've got steel toes on them, as you said.
Yeah, those are steel toes, right? Yeah. You like that, they come around and hammer hitting you in the toes all the time.
Oh, really?
I remember my parents told me they brought up a whole bunch of Chinese up here, always trying to get labor come up here. See, 2-3 days in the mine, they said everybody's walking between them rails heading south. They know it's going someplace, any place but get out of Mineville. That's where they had the Chinese jail and everything up here in Port Henry that time, but they've been moved out.
You know, we've always felt very strongly about the need for the younger generations and the rest of us who not connected with mining or railroading here to learn about the history of the area, because it gives you a better sense when you drive through, when you stop here vacation, when you walk over to the edge of the lake, which isn't very many 100 feet away, and look for Champy. I mean, some people might have thought that's all you were famous for down here until today, Jack.
yes.
What do you use the big lamp for, Jack? Same purpose as a small one?
Yeah.
Just like
Mine captains?
Well, when we had them carbide lights, and then they went into the electric lights, when you see a big beam coming down the drift, you know it was a mine captain. He wasn't a laborer. His father'd have one, and and then the men got him later on.
But you see the big light, and then you get busy. Is that what it was all about?
Yeah.
Mike? You sound like you might have understood all of that.
Well, that little, them carbide lights. There's a lot of history in them, boy.
Well, it was hard to stay cold with a big light coming at you, right?
Well, down there you worked or you didn't make no money, so you had to. But these carbide lights, there was a piece of wire you always carried it with you to clean out the end of these. There's a tip in there that had to be cleaned out, and because when you cleaned it, you wouldn't get fired through there if that tip wasn't cleaned out. And this is how you fed it, with that lever on top there, and that was what you put the water in right there. I could tell you about the water, but I don't think you want it on camera.
I told you we have good imaginations. Get on over here. We've got one little panel. First of all, let's all right, a flint. Yeah, get over here, Jack. I want to mention that because you could see the little wheels on there, the flint wheel, like a lighter, right?
Yeah, same thing.
Like a cigarette lighter.
Same thing.
Just flip it.
Just flip it with your thumb and the flame would be on.
Now, I want to know if you are the ones that, if you're personally the one that organized the writing on here. Do not touch any electric wire. Oh boy, safety first. Was that Republic Steel that put the safety first signs up, do you think?
They did it, yeah.
And there's a bunch of other languages underneath there. I don't know what they might be or why they had them in so many.
I think it's Polish.
Oh, yeah?
Drute moge something. Drute means wires.
Was that in the mines? I never remember.
Had to. I think the second
that
one's in
sign.
Polish.
You don't remember that? I bet you'd remember the one above it, though.
Oh, yeah.
That came from the mines.
Yeah. Oh, those are...
We left some nice signs down there.
Well, I see these signs with the arrows here. I'd always want to know where that top one was going. And I want to know if I was getting the shaft, too, right, Mark?
Yeah, that's what he...
I always want to know about the shaft.
Yeah. I just wonder what that danger 4-3, where'd that come from?
I don't know what that might mean.
You know why they had these signs here? Because sometimes the power go off and you had to walk up. And they had them through the old workings and you had to follow them. Sometimes the power won't go off 6-8 months. New guys will come in And if the power went off, they had to know how to get to the main shaft to walk out of there. These are being, some of them being the old workings. And when you went up through the old workings, they had like the arrows to show you which way to go. A lot of guys didn't know.
And the one on the top that says accident signal, ring 5 bells 3 times.
Yeah, right. As soon as you rang that 5 bells 3 times, if I run hoist, I had to ease it off the mark. There was a man hurt down below. Generally, you never move that mark until a man tells you. But if there's a man down below and he rings 5 bells 3 times, and he gives you the location of the level he's on, that somebody got hurt there, you just move that thing very slowly off the mark and go down and pick the man up. That was the only time that you could ever move that without getting a signal. Any other time, that cage would stay there night and day. If somebody didn't ring it off the mark, you didn't have the authority to move it off the mark. Right, Jack?
You better not ring unless you meant it, right?
Oh, no. Nobody would ring 5 bells 3 times. That was somebody get killed or somebody's bad accident. You couldn't just ring it because you... Oh, you could...
Play on that.
There was no room for that. There was...
They could fire it. They could fire for
Not to
that.
mention the fact of the
Get a
danger.
hold of it, they'll do a job on you.
Yeah.
Jack, do you have any idea what that danger 4-3 might mean?
If I were greasing the skip down on 1335, I would put 4-3 on it. The hoistman cannot move it until I get, well, he could if I bring 3-3-2 or 3-3-1, but he can't move it. There's something that tells him to keep it there. That's all it is.
Well, that's what that means.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got behind you over here, Jack? We got a picture of the railroad. 2 separate railroad companies serve the iron industry. We've mentioned already the LC&M, which Martin, you mentioned before. That's Lake Champlain and Moriah, right?
Trying to figure where this is, this building here, Jack.
I don't know. I'm stuck.
Well, it said the 2 lines met in Port Henry were a series of blast furnaces and a sintering plant. It's a good thing I talked to you guys ahead of time. They processed the crushed ore for export by train or barge. And by the 40s, the D&H owned the lower half of the LC&M up as far as the sintering plant and 7 Mill. But where they came together has got to be somewhere not too far from here.
That must be the D&H down the lower. That must be going down toward the beach, down that grade. If they want to get on a pony line, and this one comes over on the
Don't
trestle.
ask me. I certainly don't know.
This came up along here up on the trestle, Jack.
Yeah.
This is the tailings pile, I think. The scale house must be right here, and it come around here. Yeah.
Okay, and then there's John, Jack Sweet, the Sweeter, and Frank Boyle. We talked to them last week. John's right there.
Years ago, I forgot who the priest was. So the engineer thought he'd give him a ride on the old steam engine he had. And just ahead over here, going across near the lake, had a bridge there. The thing had a wreck that time. They went over down into the lake. But he didn't get hurt.
There's Stan. What is it, Wojcik? Wojcik? A center loader at the number 7.
He just passed away about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really? No kidding. Probably not too long after that picture was taken, I would say, huh?
Shortly after that.
Oh, my. And some maps up there. Does that look familiar? Right here, this map published by the Sanborn Insurance Company, the LC&M Railroad's roundhouse, and that's a little piece of history right there.
This is up in Port Henry. This here was the old-time roundhouse here. It's been shut down almost forever.
This is, let's see, where's the main road going up through here, Jack? It's about through here, no college, Elizabeth. So wherever that crossed underneath here, they took that bridge out over here. That's the bridge you see down here, half of it.
All right, now before we leave, we're going to wrap this up in a minute. I want you guys to look out the window and tell me what the heck that is on that table out there. We went around and I asked everybody in this place but you what that was, and nobody knew. What is it? Do you know?
Looks like a little compressor or something, isn't it, Jack?
You didn't even know what was that. Come on over here.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, okay.
You know what?
Okay.
Is that a bit sharpener? No?
Get over here, Jack.
They used to use it in the drill shop. They'll set a machine in there, repair it, and try it out. It's an old timer.
I don't know where it came from. And how,
Here.
oh, it's half here. There's half somewhere else, huh?
It was up in Westport and was picked up there. Well, I guess Lester the Davy brought it down. It's old.
Well, boy, when Jack says it's old, it's got to be really, really old.
That stove from down below in the mines where you kept warm.
Yeah, you stayed right close to that, did you?
No, I think that comes out of them guys from 7 Mill. They didn't do much work up there, did they? They got
John Sweet's stove came from the LC&M up here at the old LC&M shop.
That's kind of a neat stove. That does bring back memories of my childhood. Stove's just about that size, I'll tell you that, boy. The old general store had a potbelly stove very similar to that, but I think there was isinglass in the door.
Right.
Nowadays, young people don't even know what isinglass is all about.
You know what them old timers used to do? I never forget when I was about 14, 15. They put a quarter on there. And when you come into the store, you see that quarter. I grabbed it once. That's all I did.
Just once? Are you
how
kidding?
them old guys sitting around that stove laugh so hard, you know?
Isn't that something? Now, Jack, what do we have over here on the table? Are these just samples of ore or what?
This is Sinner.
Okay, now we know.
See how
Consider
poured
this.
the air goes through it. This is lump ore, Fe304, made by a man in the Historical Society, put them on the blocks for us. This is magnetite, Fe304. That's a good chunk of ore.
Okay, I'll believe you.
I just brought them there today. I'm going to try and find a magnet. You put a magnet anywhere near this and it'll bang right into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really powerful stuff, huh? Well, I got to tell you, gentlemen, all of you, no matter where you ran to, you too, Marcy, over there, thank you so much for inviting us here today. This has been a great part of my education process, and I hope I live to do it again. And you gentlemen have to promise me that you'll take us up there to the base of that thing and just show us around someday. Give us an in-person description of what it's all about.
Well, the only thing left, we could bring them over to the open pit and get a general idea.
Whatever it takes. I think we need to do it.
The open pit isn't open. You need to be related to Clinton to get in there.
Well, I'll arrange it.
I'm not sure I can do that. But in any case, this is only another chapter in the story. We've been broadcasting today from the wonderful new Mining and Railroad Museum area here in Port Henry. We hope if you get a chance, you bring your family on down here. If you make it before we do again, give us a report on what you see that might be different from what you've learned today. Gentlemen and lady, thank you so much for entertaining us here today. We've had a ball, and who knows where we're going to be next time when we do our program.